right, we're gonna get started on your swim analysis here. These are your first few laps. The three things we're gonna talk about today are number one, body position, number two, the catch and the pull, and number three, your kick. So moving right into lesson number one, which is body position. And this is really going to enable everything else we're gonna talk about. But a long, tight body position is efficient and will make it easier to coordinate your arms and legs and everything else. And really, we're just going to think about creating less drag in the water. And why I chose this as number one, there are a couple things that are showing me that you might not have the tightest and longest body position possible. Number one is just your angle in the water. And as you can see, it's sloped downward. Your hips, even with the sim shorts, are a little lower than your back and your head. We want that all to be sitting right on the surface of the water. And number two is the angle of your entry. And right now you're entering the water kind of close to your head, and then you're extending out, but you're dipping your elbow down and your hand is coming up, which is telling me that you're using your hand and arm as support, especially when you take a breath. We want that support to be coming from your core and not your hands and your arms. We want to be using your hands and your arms to propel water backwards and not pushing water down for support. This is a video of Jenna swimming. She has less bad habits than I do, which is why I chose her. But as you can see, she kind of just sits right on top of her hip, and she's using her body, her core, her glutes, and her legs to support herself, and just kind of balancing perpendicular on that bottom hip, which is where we want to be because it'll enable us to use our hands and arms to, again, propel ourselves forward as opposed to using them for support. Here she's using a snorkel, which I highly recommend when we're working on this stuff. A snorkel just allows us to keep our head down in the water and to isolate our thinking and our focus on our body. So I definitely recommend that just during warm-up or when we're doing drills, which we're gonna talk about here. So the first drill is very simple. It's just floating. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna push off the wall in a tight Superman position, and we're just gonna float there for about 5 seconds and then swim to the other side. When we're doing this, we wanna keep our head neutral and our core tight. And I would recommend not using your sim shorts or any type of flotation assistance for this one, just so we can think about keeping our core tight and using our core and our glutes to keep our hips on top of the surface for as long as possible. Sorry about this funky video. We're working on filming some new drills, but as you can see, just pushing off the wall in a streamline, or in a Superman, and floating there for about 5 seconds. You're gonna feel your legs sink a little bit, which is totally natural. Just try to use your core to raise them up, and then after 5 seconds, swim to the other side. The second drill, again, very simple, something you've probably done before, is catch-up stroke. This one, I want you to put your arms at 11 and 1 o'clock so they're not touching out in front. And in between strokes, we're gonna take about 3 seconds to kick on our stomach in that Superman position. So we're gonna pause here for a little bit longer out in front than what this guy is doing, and we're also gonna have our hands, we want a little bit of separation between our hands just to think about our arms being completely straight and not angled inwards. So again, catch-up stroke, you're gonna pause there for 3 seconds and kick, just like that. And what we're gonna think about is just a long, tight body position from our fingertips to our toes. We're gonna activate our traps and our lats to keep that front side strong when we do that. The second lesson is the catch, and kind of as a byproduct, the pull. And we're looking at the catch specifically because a proper catch will set up an early and deep pull with all the bigger muscles in our body activated. And something I like to think about, and I'll explain what this means, is reaching over and around the barrel. I kind of like this expression for, talking about the catch. Now, the first thing I noticed here in your catch and your pull is I'm seeing extra propulsion at the back end of your stroke, which means we're not starting our pull early enough. You can see your whole body move forward halfway through your stroke, right there, right there. So we're gonna clean that up. But this is kind of all the available water that is accessible in our pull. If we get our fingertips down and our elbow high, we can grab all of that water. We can, use your hands and forearms to make sure we're getting as much water as possible. Because of your low elbow at the front, we're kind of coming up a little bit shallow, and this blue box is showing what water you're grabbing, because you're kind of catching water late and you're not getting your arm as deep as possible. And deeper water has less turbulence, it's just faster. So we want to get our fingertips down and our elbows high, so we're activating all the right muscle groups and we're pulling that clean water towards the bottom of the pool. And this is the front angle, as you can see what we're talking about. Again, your elbow's dipping, your hand is up, and it's kind of creating all that drag at the front end of your stroke. But what that's doing is it's becoming really difficult to pull as much water as possible. So now we're gonna look at freeze frames of me swimming, and as you can see, this is what I'm talking about. The high elbow, the low fingertips, and this is what I mean reaching around the barrel. That circle should be water that we wanna get over and around during the catch phase, so the rest of our pull is nice and deep and strong and activating the bigger muscle groups. I'll put the same circle here, what it looks like with your right arm, and it's very similar on the left arm too, I should point out. But see, again, we need to get that elbow up, and that will enable us to get our arm deeper and start our pull earlier. And a couple drills we want to be thinking about here. The first one is sculling, and this is my favorite drill. I do this every practice still, just to get a feel for the water. We want to make sure our elbows are high and our forearms are as perpendicular as possible to the surface of the water. And this will just get us a good feel for the water out in front of our head, because the good stuff, I should say, in quotes, like where our pull begins and where really like everything is initiated in our stroke, happens out in front. And the more out in front we can be with everything, the better and more efficient swimmer you're gonna be. So when we scull, we want to keep our elbows high, and we want to make sure everything is happening out in front of our body. And if it's easier, you can do a light kick with this one, or you can wear a pull buoy like this guy to keep your hips up. But this will be a good drill to just get us a good feel for the water. And the second drill we're going to talk about is sculling again, but it's front-back catch sculling. So what you're going to do here is you're going to have both arms starting out in front, and one by one, you're going to pull an arm back, and you're just going to alternate each arm by sculling back and forth. And I'll show you what this means. It's not a perfect example. It's not a perfect video here, because what I want you to be doing is having both arms out in front and alternating that motion. But this video shows exactly what that motion should look like. You're just going to go back and forth and practice what a perfect catch should look like. And if it's easier, I definitely recommend wearing a snorkel and just kind of looking up at your hands to make sure they're doing the correct thing. And the third lesson we're going to talk about is the kick. And we're talking about the kick because a steady kick will keep your body in line and also provide that extra propulsion through the water. And something I want you to be thinking about is kicking in the box and avoiding a choppy kick. And I'll show you what that means here. But first, let's take a look at you swimming. And we'll zoom in on the legs to give you a better look at what your feet and legs are doing. But right now, your kick is very choppy. And here's the box that I want to illustrate. And ideally, your feet should stay within those parameters. A small kick is actually a very powerful kick because it means you're bending your knees less, and right now you have a pretty steep knee bend. This is what the angle of your knee is, and ideally, again, it should be really flat so we can keep our feet contained within the box. And the power should be coming from your glute and hips, which I can see are hardly bending at all. They're hardly doing any of the work. And here's a video of me swimming, and as you can see, my knees are barely bending and the power is coming from my butt, my hamstrings, my hips, all the bigger muscles that we want to be activating besides just the smaller lower leg muscles. And I'll pause to give you a look at what this angle is, and as you can see, it's almost completely flat. There's only just a slight knee bend, which is setting up a powerful small kick that we can get the tempo up, with because it's tighter and staying within the parameters of the box. And the first drill, these aren't really drills, but it's just kind of a progression. And what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna rotate laps of kicking by 25, and this will give you a good feel of kicking from every type of angle. So the first lap, you're just gonna be on your stomach in Superman. And if it's easier, you can hold on to a kickboard, but I want your head to be down as you do this, like this guy. And you're just gonna kick. And this is gonna be the first lap in the progression. And you can do 1 lap, 2 laps, however you wanna do it, and just focus on feeling water on both sides of your feet, on the up kick and the down kick, keeping your kicks nice and small. The second lap in the progression is kicking on your back and streamline. This will be a good one for you because you'll feel if your knees are popping out of the water. So we want to keep our kick small. And then the third and fourth lap is just kicking on your side. So again, you're going to be feeling water on both sides of your feet. And if you start to veer off to the side, it means, your down kick is harder, is moving you more than your up kick. So a lap on each side will be finishing off that progression. And the second progression is just going to be X beat kick. So the first lap is going to be a 2-beat kick, the second lap is a 6-beat kick, and the third lap is a 12-beat kick. This is going to help you sync your kick to your arms, so they're going to be less all over the place and more coordinated, and the kick as a result will just flow a little better as opposed to being choppy. So the first lap in the progression is a 2-beat kick, and this is just 1 kick per arm. And you can start off really slow here. You can almost do catch-up stroke, but the focus is to just get a nice 1 tight kick per stroke. And you can really think about keeping your kick really, really tight and strong and glute hip driven. And the second lap in the progression is a 6-beat kick, and this should be pretty normal. But I want you to think about slowing down your arms a bit and just counting to 3, because it should be 3 kicks per arm. So it's just 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And again, this is just practicing timing and rhythm. And the last one is, I couldn't find a video of it, but it's a 12-beat kick, which is basically just hyper speed. You're definitely going to want to slow your arms down at first and be diligent with your pattern. And you're going to count to 6 kicks on each side, so it's double speed. It's going to be a lot of kicking, and you'll feel it'll be very tiring. But in summary, the 3 things, the first is the body position, enabling everything else we talked about. We just want to set a long and tight body position in the water for a coordinated stroke, your hips near the surface, your neck is nice and extended, but your head remains in a neutral position. There are your 2 drills. The second lesson was the catch and pull. We want to keep high elbow while keeping our fingers low. We want to access all that water in the box that we illustrated before. Just a couple drills of sculling will go a long ways for this. And the third lesson was the kick, and this will just help you, keep your hips up and also provide a little extra propulsion in the 2 drills that we went over. So that's all I got. I'll leave you with your video of you touching the box at the end of our session. So enjoy.
Woo. There you go. There you go. Oh yeah. Nice. Good job, dude. Man, that was it. Awesome. Thank you.